All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're cracking open 1 John chapter 5. It's an ancient letter for sure, but it was written with this one incredibly powerful goal, to give you solid, unshakable confidence in your faith. So, let's get into it.
You know, it's a question that probably sits in the back of a lot of our minds, right? How do I really know that I belong to God? And asking that isn't a sign of weak faith, not at all. It's a deeply human desire for certainty. And the book of 1 John was written to answer that very question.
I mean, look at this. The author, John, he just comes right out and says it. He's not trying to create anxiety or make you second guess everything. It's the exact opposite. He wrote this so that you can know, not just hope or feel, but have a solid confidence that's grounded in God's own testimony.
So how does John build this case for assurance? Where does he start? Well, he begins by laying out these three observable signs, three pieces of evidence, you could say, that are true and typical for a child of God.
Okay, so here they are. First, a real, genuine belief that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Second, a love for God that spills over into a love for his people. And third, obedience to his commands. John weaves these three things together constantly, basically saying, hey, if you want to know you have this new life, these are the markers you can look for.
But here's something John is really clear about. These are not three separate boxes you can just check off on some kind of spiritual to-do list. He's super insistent that none of them are optional.
A better way to think about it is like this. They're all just different sides of the same coin. They're all expressions of the very same new life. I mean, think about it. Love without obedience? That's not really biblical love. And obedience without love, well, that's just empty rule following. And neither one of them matters if they're disconnected from a true faith in Jesus. Okay, so that leads to a pretty obvious question, right? How in the world is this kind of obedience even possible? John's answer is, well, it's a game changer. It's that this new life comes with a built-in victory. See, John says something that can sound a little crazy at first. He says God's commandments are not a heavy burden. And you might be thinking, really? Because sometimes they feel that way. But then he tells us why. It's because the person who is born of God has already overcome the world. And the source of that victory isn't our own willpower or grit, it's our faith.
And we have got to be super clear about what John means by faith here. This isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling or some kind of wishful thinking. No, this is a full-hearted, all-in trust that Jesus is exactly who he says he is, the Son of God, and that through him we're set free.
And when you really get that, it completely flips the script on how we look at our spiritual lives. So often, it feels like we're in this constant battle, just trying to claw our way to a win, right? But John's telling us that's just not the reality.
And here it is. This is the whole thing. We don't fight for victory. We fight from victory. It's a settled reality. It's a victory that Christ already won. Now, are the pressures and temptations of the world still real? Oh yeah, but the testimony of God about his Son is stronger. It is the most powerful reality there is.
So all this brings us to the absolute peak of the argument. John moves from the evidence we can see in our lives to the ultimate, final proof, God's own testimony about his Son.
Now, he says this thing that, I'll be honest, can sound a little weird at first. Water and blood. What on earth does he mean by that? It might seem like a random detour, but stick with me, because John is passionately defending the absolute heart of the gospel right here.
So to get this, you have to know what was going on at the time. There were some false teachers who were spreading this idea that the divine Christ kind of just inhabited the human Jesus for a little while, but then ditched him right before the cross. And John is basically shouting, no way. He's insisting that Jesus the man is the Son of God, at his baptism, on his cross, and forever.
So there you have it. These are the three witnesses he presents. The water of his baptism, which testifies to his divine identity. The blood of his cross, which testifies to his saving death. And the Spirit, who is a constant witness in the hearts of believers. All three agree on one central truth, who Jesus really is.
All right, so John has laid out the evidence in our lives, he's given us God's ultimate testimony, and now he brings it all home with this incredibly powerful personal conclusion.
And this verse, right here, this is the bottom line. It's a simple, objective statement of divine fact. The question of eternal life just boils down to one thing. Do you have the Son?
And please hear this. This is so important. Your assurance, that deep down confidence, doesn't come from your feelings which go up and down.
And it definitely doesn't come from living a flawless life, because who can do that? It's all based on one thing, having the Son, which means trusting Him and believing what God has said about Him, period.
And another thing we got to get straight, this isn't just some future promise we hope for one day. This new reality, this eternal life, it kicked off 2,000 years ago with Christ's victory on the cross. It's something believers possess right here, right now.
Then you get to the very last verse of the entire letter, and it can feel like it comes out of nowhere. After this incredible discussion of assurance, he just ends with this: "Little children, keep yourselves from idols." You might think, huh? But in context, it's actually the perfect ending.
So, what's an idol here? It's anything that diminishes the true Christ. It's any teaching that tries to offer you a Jesus without his cross, or a gospel that says you can love God but don't really have to obey his commands. That's a false Christ. That's an idol. It's a version of God that we make in our own image, one that asks less of us and offers far, far less in return.
So, if you believe in the name of the Son of God, the one who came by water and blood, then walk in this truth. You are known by God. You are His child. You have eternal life, right now. And you have overcome the world.
And that really just leaves us with one last thing to think about. In a world that is constantly screaming at us to find our identity in our careers, or our success, or our relationships, what idols, what lesser versions of Christ might be trying to sneak into your life? Because the real, unshakable assurance John writes about is found only in the one true Christ, the Son of God.